Hello, my name is Joseph Riccardi, and today I will be guiding you guys through my informative video where I will be exploring the compelling evidences surrounding the debate on climate change. I am excited to guide you through the key points of both the consensus and the minority positions. My goal is to provide a comprehensive overview so you can better understand the different perspectives on this critical issue. So let's go ahead and dive in. Introducing the consensus viewpoint. First off, the consensus viewpoint believes that us as humans have an effect on climate change, primarily through CO2 emissions. And this is explained in a variety of different fashions, leading us to our number one viewpoint, which is the increased wildfires. So the alarming increase of wildfires suggests a significant uptick in the number of acres burned each year. In the early 80s, the figure shows that it was under 2 million acres, and now it's staggered to 10 million. That's a five-fold increase. Moreover, the fire season in the western US has extended by more than 2 months, largely attributed to climate change. California, in particular, has seen a doubling of extreme wildfire conditions during autumn days. Now let's explore the visual on slide 1 to illustrate the rise in wildfires and the impact of climate change on our environment. So if you take a look at this little graph here, it obviously shows that it went from 1980 to 2020, and that is a pretty big difference. And obviously the increase is very prevalent. And that's a pretty compelling point of view. So that leads us to our second point, which is the scientific consensus. Now, the Doran and Zimmerman survey shows the 2009 study, which involved in 3,000 or survey, which showed 3,146 scientists, and the results were eye-opening. An astounding 97% of these scientists supported the consensus view on climate change. To reinforce this, a study by John Cook in 2013, which reviewed a staggering 11,944 papers published in academic journals, found that 97% of these papers agreed with the consensus view. Sounds pretty convincing if you were to take it from me. Now, moving us over to slide number 3, which is the viewpoint of the consensus number 3, is our evidence brings us to the infamous hockey stick graph. This graph illustrates temperature changes over time and is faced a lot of scrutiny, but is essential to recognize its legitimacy. The hockey stick graph has been replicated by multiple scientists, underscoring its authenticity. Additionally, it effectively dispels the notion that the medieval warm period was a global phenomenon. Now, if you see the visual on slide number 3, is pretty evident to see that huge uptick. And it's been dispelled by a lot of people in the minority, which brings us to the other half, which is the minority viewpoint. Viewpoint number 1, natural variability. Now, shifting gears a little bit, exploring the argument from the minority perspective, the first point challenges the consensus by emphasizing the role of natural variability in climate changes. According to this viewpoint, natural factors rather than human activities explain most of the observed changes, be it that the rate of heat waves, forest fires, and sea level rising. This is pretty convincing, which shuts down the argument of the consensus view. So this just goes to show that all of what the consensus is purporting is just simply based off of natural variability and natural causes, not by humans. Going to the next viewpoint, it shows our critical examination of the data supporting the consensus. The argument contends that the consensus view misrepresents the majority of scientists' beliefs. Scientifically, we will scrutinize specifically will scrutinize the Doran and Zimmerman survey and the John Cook study, highlighting concerns about cherry picking and the lumping fallacy, which basically means that they took different data sets from different studies showing vastly different points of evidence, and they chose the best one that fits their narrative, which also goes to disprove the consensus view. So going to our next point, we have the doubts about the medieval warm period. So our final point takes us to the historical realm, casting doubts on the consensus view regarding the medieval warm period. The claim suggests that various disciplines, including history, archaeology, and paleoclimatology, confirm the reality of this period. Skepticism arises from the hockey stick graph, which shows some argument in a product of data manipulation and cherry picking. So this is pretty compelling, if you were to ask me. I genuinely do think that the minority position is a little bit more compelling than the consensus view, having the fact that the consensus view has had a lot of funding by the government, and a lot of the minority views aren't as purported by the government due to factors in which I believe are like the government wouldn't make as much money purporting the minority view. And the fact that the government can easily get people to have this fear-based, um, notion that they can just, control the climate, simply by making things happen. So this would force a lot of people to change gears and to switch their minds into being like, I can control the climate and everything around them, which in fact the minority is completely against, saying like, hey, we can obviously help our environment, but we don't have as much of an impact as we think we do. So that is two of our biggest views on the climate change. And yes, personally, I do agree with the minority view. So that is the two summaries of the points and what I personally believe about the particular validity of both of these. So yes, that is my informative speech. Thank you.